Hello and welcome to Group 3's MSI 421 project plan presentation. This presentation will take into account the impact that the information technology will have on the veterinary profession, with a strong basis being placed on the utilization of the technology to improve the services received by the veterinary clients. As can be seen on the slide, the following group members are associated. In the preceding slide, we could see the table of contents within which the report is broken down into, within which the report will take into account. Each section will be broken down further and can be seen as follows. In this slide, the project scope will be analyzed, in which we can see that there will be two sections, one with which the in-scope project details will be analyzed, and the other one will be the out-of-scope project details. The in-scope project details will take into account the deliverables, which entail feasible technology solutions that aim in aiding the enhancement of pet owner and veterinary communication. This will take place by conducting market research and contacting with several pet owners and stores so as to compile a list of data and critically analyze it both financially and economically to present functional requirements that will be used for presenting pros and cons for the respective technology solutions. The project out of scope will take into account the technological developments and market predictions, which means that rather than actually developing the process, we will just identify the solutions and analyze general market trends as opposed to in detail observations. And this is due to time frame restrictions and budget constraints associated with the project.
So as far as milestones are achieved, we have constructed our list of data sources and the places we're going to go to collect the data for our surveys. We have constructed the survey questions for collecting the data that we're going to be asking the pet store owners, the pet owners, and the vets, and all of our data sources. And then we submitted it to the OVC with Adam and Teresa for revision, and they will help us establish a list of questions that covers everything that we need to cover for this for the survey. And also we've established the base structure for the final presentation of what we're going to be presenting at the very end. So as mentioned before, this is the week that we finalized our data source and survey question list. And next week we're going to be starting to reaching out to the data sources to begin the actual collection of the data that we plan to collect. So first we're going to confirm our lists of survey questions and data sources with OVC, make sure that they cover everything that we need to cover. Once that's complete, we're going to split our group up into mini teams, and each team will cover a certain section of the data sources and collect all the information that we will need to collect from them. And once all that is done, we will submit our data, compile it together, and analyze it together and see what we can find with it.
Okay, so for this presentation, we broke the communication plan into three sections. The first is objectives, basically just the communication guidelines that we're trying to adhere to with this project. The second, targeted messages and delivery, talks a little bit more about what messages we're sending and how frequent we are sending them. The third is a little bit more in depth on what the messages are specifically. So our guiding principles for this project are basically promote and gain support for the ideas that are generated. So we don't have fixed requirements. So when we generate ideas, we need to ensure that the stakeholders are accepting of our idea. The second bullet is ensure team is meeting project management best practices and standards. So the objective behind this is to communicate frequently and ensure that every party has a mutual understanding. So it gives succinct and timely information regarding the project status. Broken down very simply, it's just we want to make sure that information is to the point and given out frequently. To ensure a consistent message is delivered to all stakeholders, we are going to, essentially what this means is that we aren't going to give Peter something and give our client something different. We're not going to tell one A and the other B. We are going to deliver the same message externally all the time. Lastly, make sure issues are identified early and mitigated or eliminated. Just quite simply, again, we want to make sure that our clients and Dr. Carr understand what the problems are and how we are addressing them, just in case they have any input or anything. So project status reports go out weekly. We aim to do it by Tuesday by 5 5 p.m. Project update meetings happen bi-weekly with our project sponsors. We aim to book those by about Wednesday of the week that we are meeting. And project advisory meetings with Dr. Carr obviously happen every Wednesday. I'm sure you're well aware of that. Internally within the team, we try and gain direction and delegation on Tuesday, and project change request analysis happen as needed. In addition to that, we also communicate things to all parties, so things like the project plan we send out at the start of the semester, and project report and video are something that will be sent out at a date to be determined at the end of the term. So as far as message content go, the status reports, I'm sure you're all very aware of this by now, but they cover activities completed since the last meeting, activities to be completed in the next week, concerns, issues, all sorts of risks and stuff like that. Project update meetings with the client, spend that time to kind of realign vision and ensure sign-off. So realigning vision is as simple as if they're thinking animals and we're thinking cows, it's a good time for them to say, no, we're actually talking about dogs or something like that. Ensuring sign-off is as simple as just if we're sending out a survey or something, just ensuring that the clients are good with what we have written. Lastly, running ideas by clients is very important, especially in this project where we are ideating, brainstorming as a team. So we try to leverage these meetings to pitch ideas to clients and see their initial response and what tailoring we might have to do to make it fit their needs and ours. In our project advisory meeting, they differ a little because we talk about the client concern specific too. So if our client isn't meeting with us, or something like that, there's a communication breakdown somewhere, these project advisory meetings are there for that. The second last point is project direction and task delegation. So we do this on Tuesday to help us prepare for our status report. It's just a quick internal discussion to assign work for the next coming week and just check off that everyone's done everything that they need to do. And I'm going to leave project change requests to the change section.
The next section in our discussion is the risk management plan. So the first question we have when developing a risk management plan is, why bother? Well, first of all, a risk management plan is necessary in order to ensure that the project proceeds smoothly, we're able to deliver our product on time, and that any unforeseen delays are dealt with adequately and in an appropriate manner. In order to do this, we have to monitor risks as they wax and they wane throughout the project period. And we'll see this happening based off of how we feel the project is going. We might not have the best visibility of risks further down the line right now at this moment. And that's why it's important that we keep updating and maintaining our risk management plan and that it become a live document rather than a one-off shot that we do at the beginning of our project. And finally, as we see these risks develop, it's important that we prepare mitigation responses in order to ensure that if a risk does occur, if some unlikely event puts us behind schedule, we are capable of catching up, of containing and responding in order to ensure that we still are able to meet our overall project goals with minimal impact on things like project quality and time frame. So, how is the risk management plan developed? The individual risks were assessed both in probability and impact. So, for probability, we rated risks on a scale of 1 to 5, meaning extremely rare, all the way up to inevitable. In terms of project impact, we have also rated 1 to 5 in terms of barely perceptible and all the way up to showstoppers. The product of these two factors is the risk of set occurrence. So, risks 1 through 5 require no real actions, only monitoring, because they are they are both a combination of extremely unlikely and have a minor impact in our opinion. Risks rated 5 through 10 require only high-level action plans, meaning we know that we should keep this risk in mind and be aware of it and take general steps to try and minimize its probability or impact. but no dedicated steps need to be taken. For risks rated 10 through 15, medium action plans with a member deemed responsible for monitoring should be created. So this means that concrete actions that can be measured and counted upon should be taken, and one member of the team will be deemed responsible in order to ensure that these actions are being taken and that the risk is in fact being mitigated. Risks rated 15 through 20 require immediate preventative steps in order to reduce this risk to an acceptable level, meaning that immediate action has to be taken. A group meeting should occur in order to discuss the way forward. And it's most important that we reduce the likelihood of such an event occurring. Finally, risks rated 20 through 25 require immediate containment actions and will most likely lead to a project reevaluation, either in a changing of the objectives or possible deliverables based off of the risk, and in order to help and prevent this risk from occurring. Following this, we have the risk mitigation plan summary. Here we see the risk, the risk itself. It's categorized by its impact, probability, and ranked, of course, by the overall risk. And then we have a small mitigation plan overview. So the primary risk that we've identified is the poor quality of data collected, because we're going to have a small sample size. And that would have an impact of 4, meaning a severe impact on our project with a medium level probability, giving an overall rating of 12. So this falls under the medium risk, requiring a medium level plan. And Victor Giger has been deemed the member responsible in order to monitor this risk as it progresses. Another risk we identified was a mismatch between the client expectations and project deliverables. The impact of this would also be severe, but we believe the probability is fairly low in this case, giving a risk of 8. And our risk management overview is to ensure that we have constant communication with the client and keep them up to date with what we're doing in order to get their input and their feedback. Next up, we have a data collection falling behind schedule due to time constraints or a lack of appetite on the part of our sample population. This would have an impact of 3 with also a low probability, giving a risk of 6, which is low. In this case, our mitigation plan at the moment is to compress the data analysis section of the project, as you will see in the time frame, because this is the most malleable of the project stages, and allocating a couple extra hours to this zone, we could easily compress that and make up for a lost week. And for our next risk, we have client not satisfied with project quality. This would, of course, have a very high impact on our project because we are not satisfying the client, which is our primary objective. But we believe this has a very low probability of occurrence, giving a risk of 5 or low. And in order to mitigate this, right now we have implemented our project quality management plan. And we will be sure to follow that. It has some checks and balances to ensure that not one person is overviewing an entire section, both in terms of producing it and evaluating it. And finally, we have a final risk of not finding a viable technical solution because of market conditions. Either possible solutions would be too expensive, or there is nothing currently available on the market. This would have an impact of 3 because, of course, some technology will be localized, but it might not be essentially viable or readily implementable at this moment. but we believe it has a very low probability of occurrence, giving this a very low risk, so we will just continue to monitor this risk as our project progresses. So going on to our primary risk identified, it's that we will have poor data because of our small sample size. So, as mentioned earlier, Victor Giger is being deemed responsible to monitor the risk. And in order to contain this risk, we've already started a set of mitigation actions. First off, we've created a standardized questionnaire streets for our data collection in order to maximize the quality of our data, if not necessarily the quantity, and to make the most out of each individual response. Following this, we've also expanded our original target audience, which was to include only pet owners, but now we're also reaching out to pet stores and vets. And these are actually these should be very useful in helping contain this risk, because they have a lot of exposure to many different pet owners, and they could act as sort of a condenser or a point of contact with which we could reach further information or find networks of pet owners. And finally, we're also making use of social networks, social media such as Facebook, Twitter, in order to extend our project reach and try to maximize the amount of people we can reach out to and enter in contact with in order to feel their opinions and see what exactly it is that pet owners out there need. And then following this, just a brief mention of our high-level strategies for the risks that we found needed them. In terms of a mismatch between project deliverables and client expectations, currently we plan to have bi-weekly communication with the client, always keep them in the loop. And keeping that in mind, we do not foresee much complication in this regard, and we believe that we'll be able to proceed on track without any issue. In terms of our data schedule, falling behind schedule because of time constraints or because we're not able to find sufficient sample population, it's important that we begin the data collection ASAP. And we've already made this standardized data sheet in order to make things a little smoother and quicken the process so that we can get to more people in a shorter time frame. And finally, for the project quality risk, it's important that we follow our project quality plan. As mentioned, it has many checks and balances in order to ensure that we don't have any conflicts of interests, and so that we are producing our highest level quality of work possible. And our final risk, a lack of a viable technical solution, doesn't require a high-level strategy, only monitoring, as mentioned previously. So overall, we feel very good about the project. In terms of risks, we do not foresee many issues. As mentioned, we are particularly concerned about the quality of our data, but we've already taken actions to attempt to either minimize the probability or the impact of such an event occurring. And the project shall hopefully proceed without issue.
Changes to the initial project plan are always a possibility, and to ensure the smooth integration of new changes, a change management plan has been developed. This plan is illustrated by the flowchart below. The first step is to recognize the issue. A team member, while working on their assigned tasks, might discover a problem or encounter an issue. They will then submit a change request which will outline the reasons for change. This change request will be reviewed by the group leader, who will decide if the change is needed, and if he deems it to be essential, then the change will be coordinated with the clients. The clients will then decide whether to accept or reject the change, or instead suggest a revised strategy. If accepted, the change will then be integrated to our project plan. All changes will be tracked in a log to keep a record of all the modifications to the initial plan. In the last step, the team will discuss the change during the weekly meeting to identify the impact of the changes to their current assigned tasks. To maintain appropriate quality standards, a quality management plan is also in place. This will be used to ensure that all of the deliverables meet the desired standards. The results of the survey will be reviewed in the team meeting to find patterns and remove any unnecessary outliers. We will also be writing weekly progress reports, which will be reviewed by the consultant and the client to ensure that the project is on the right track. For our final proposal, we will be suggesting a possible modern technology, such as the mobile app. It will be ensured that the suggested technology can be put into practice in a short time rather than suggesting something that would take a long time to develop. Finally, it is important to propose an affordable solution so that its development cost is reasonable and is something that the pet owners will be able to afford.
Within the Human Resources Management Plan, we will provide profiles of the members of our project team and the various roles that team members will perform in our project. Our team consists of 4 chemical engineering students: Victor, Ryan, Abdul, and Maj. Matthew is studying management engineering, and Philip, who is studying computer science. Team member roles have been set up so that over the course of the project, members will monitor the project to ensure we are abiding to the plans that we have discussed. Victor will be the point of contact for our client and manager of project risks. Matthew will be the manager of project communications. Ryan and Abdul will share the role of managers of project quality and changes, while Majd and Philip will share the role of managers of project schedule. As well, at different stages in our project, we have broken up into smaller groups to better tackle the tasks. In Stage 1, the problem definition and analysis, Group 1, consisting of Victor, Maj, and Ryan, will be responsible for creating a list of pet shops, pet owners, and vets around the Kitchener-Waterloo region. Group 2, consisting of Abdul, Matthew, and Philip, will be making a list of questions to be used in each of the surveys. These same groups exist in Stage 2 of our project, data collection and interpretation. Group 1 in this stage will be responsible for surveying the local pet shops. Group 2 is responsible for surveying the local vets. In Stage 2, all members will be completing the task of surveying pet owners. It will be split up and shared to get a larger sample size. This concludes the plan that we have laid out for our project. At this time, we would like to thank you for listening to this presentation and look forward to receiving your feedback.